say zapped, like electrical zap, like lightning. But that doesn't make sense to me. I guess it kind of does, because sometimes when I'm feeling really, really, really burned out, I'll say I'm just like a scorch mark, like on the road, you know, just there I was, essentially defunct, right? Like, not meaningless, you know? You can still give feedback to the creator, but it's just you giving them the middle finger more privately now, like without an audience. And I wonder if there's a sense of loss there. I wonder if it's not as gratifying now that you can't like publicly besmirch, not besmirch publicly. Yeah, you can't like shame someone on a public level with like spam dislikes anymore. I'm really curious to know like if you're one of the people, like if you're one of my haters, because like I know you're here. Hi, how are you? Hope you're having a good day. Yeah, I wonder if that's a bummer on any level for people who take the edge off their own pain, or like, you know, get something out of going around on the internet just, I don't know, being furious with total strangers. So yes, that's the thing that I tell myself when someone's really trying to get at me on the internet. I ask myself, and sometimes I ask them, but the number one question that brings me peace or restores my perspective about it, it's a little snarky, I wish. Well, it's actually not necessarily. It's got some pugnacious, some contentious vibes, but I'm like throwing fancy words out. I'm trying to impress you with my words today. Do you need another bellicose, quarrelsome, litigious, kinda, sorta? Yeah. It's got kind of that vibe, that flavor, but it's not necessarily trying to hurt them. It's just trying to give them a reality check, maybe. And I just like to say, and who are you to me? Not like, who are you? Like, you could be the fucking boss, you know, of the world. You could be the coolest I mean, I doubt, like, what are you? You're the coolest person in the world, and you've come to my video to hate on me. That's a surprise. I'm surprised. But I guess I'm not well positioned to know what the coolest person in the world would do with their time, because I'm not in the running. Never will be. But let's say you are. I'm not challenging that. I'm just saying, who are you to me? And that you cannot answer without my help. Because, like, why do I care what you think of me? It's just a different way to ask, like, why would I care? And often when I type it out, if I'm really hearing it, I no longer feel the need to even hit send or whatever. Yeah, but sometimes I do, like, if I think there's a possibility that the person is just speaking from utter ignorance, sometimes I do get into it, not get into it, but I do humor, not even humor them, I take the bait, you know. I do, no, not even that, because it isn't always like a trap or anything, but like, so this has been my mindset for a while, and the problem lately has been I've been getting more comments that make me uncomfortable, and I know that there's been this shift. I don't think I'm more sensitive lately. I'm just noticing a wall. I'm noticing an aversion. I don't like as much checking my comments, which like the teeny tiniest negative associations to flip that into a full-on aversion, right? Like now there are multiple things being like, whoa. So yeah, I've just had some comments lately that really, and I deleted, like, the one I'm really thinking of, I did, it wasn't even on YouTube, but it was from YouTube, someone who found me through YouTube, and it, like, really, really rattled me, and, yeah, like, of course, I'm afraid, on some level, like, aren't we all? I'm afraid of people. And not so much that I'm going to be humiliated, ridiculed. I think I can more and more handle that. I used to be a much more defensive person, but now that we're getting down to brass tacks, you know, now that I'm in my 10th year of therapy, because I started therapy as a teenager when I was 13 or 14, which is a massive privilege, but my mom, I don't know if you all know this, but clinical psychologist, so there was just like a proclivity, like there was just a value of that, a high value placed on the kind of services in my family, and I really needed it. I was diagnosed, yeah, when I was 12, I think that's right, I was diagnosed with OCD, among other things. So, yeah, so I'm getting to a place where I'm less and less defensive, thank God, because over the course of my life, I've been an incredibly defensive, guarded, compensating person. So at this point, it's not ridicule that scares me really at all. I don't know if it ever really was. Like when I get down real deep, I think I'm scared of something more dangerous. Like I'm scared of being figuratively mauled, you know, like destroyed. I can't put my finger on it, of course, comments made me pull back. And this one comment that I got made me feel, yeah, I was concerned, and it made me, I actually also went back and I like made a lot of my older videos private. Again, I was leaning in that direction anyway because I was So I was already inclined to make some of those videos private, but I decided not to because A, like you all have already seen it, you've already seen me like way overline my lips and be really freaked out being on camera, whatever it looked like. You know, I kind of want to be open about these things to some extent. So I want you to be able to see for yourself, you know, what it looks like when I'm not doing so hot. Just to normalize that. B, I put a ton of work into them. Like, especially back then when I was more symptomatic across the board. So much angst, just like toiling. So it's hard to just take them away and see. I mean, relatedly, I want to make money off them if I can do that now. You know, it's all cumulative or exponential on YouTube. It builds. So if I can still get traffic to some of my older videos and make more money on a daily basis, why wouldn't I? But because I already had weird feelings about a lot of those videos, when I got this message, it again tipped the scales, like we talked about with the comments. It became a full-blown aversion because, not aversion, but like I decided to make the videos private because I was like, well, what if I said something like revealing my awareness of what I share on camera has changed. Like, I've become more aware as my channel's gotten bigger and bigger. I really want to be safe, and I want to forestall people finding out my private, like my real life identity for as long as I can. Just personally, we've all seen really sad things happen to YouTubers, especially women, when people were able to go after them in real life, you know, and I don't want to deal with that, you know, like I would shutter my channel if that happened because it's just so in my areas of trauma and fear. Like I have no interest. I'll run in the other direction. That would be like the perfect crime of a true hater. I shouldn't give ideas, but like, if you're sick of seeing my fucking face, like, good news is I'm really skittish. You know, like, fight or flight is strong with this one. Strong in this body. So yeah, that message freaked me out, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what I've said before a certain point when I can't even remember the content. Like, after a certain point, I'm pretty sure I became on it in terms of not revealing private information, not revealing which high school I went to and which class, you know, which graduating class, specific cities. Los Angeles is huge, so I'm like, you know, whatever. Sorry, it got really loud. Yeah, like, my hometown, where specifically my various family members now live, like, maybe things that don't even matter, but I just want to be really careful, to the extent that I'm able. Like, I don't know if you've seen the conversation with Gene Hackman. It's a Francis Ford Coppola movie from the 70s, and Gene Hackman's character works in surveillance. I think it's a great movie. I really like. If I had to choose forever between, that was a weird way to say that, but if I had to choose a Francis Ford Coppola movie to watch forever, I love The Godfather. I really do, but it would be tough because now I love The Conversation for completely different reasons. Apocalypse Now, I cannot stand that movie. Not necessarily for the reasons you'd think. I get it. It's a masterpiece. Like, much respect. I think Francis Ford Coppola was extremely effective in what he set out to do and made his point very masterfully. make me more vulnerable, more susceptible. I know this is no way to live, but I've seen so many amazing creators go the way of the dodo because people just ran them off the internet, sometimes not even maliciously, but like unwell people. Like, just, yeah, impinging upon their senses of safety in this space. So I've asked over and over again for people to please not follow my private Instagram. It's not personal, and honestly, I'm hardly on it at all these days. If I post these days, I'm much more likely to post to the Instagram that I list here. But people keep doing that, perhaps in error, but it's frustrating because I feel like I've been very clear, and I always put my Instagram information, my Instagram information below. Yeah, it's hard for me to sort out, like, who has found me through IRL circumstances, like photo shoots and things like that, and friends of friends of friends, and who is here through YouTube, and is an internet stranger. But maybe I should just stop accepting everyone on there. If I had my druthers, no one that I did not know in real life would follow me on there, just because there's a different level of accountability. You have more options. I mean, not many, like, our anti-stalking laws are so, like, total bullshit, but you have more, like, community accountability. The fabric, like, they are a part of the same fabric of society, the same swath as you. So you have, like, community. And I'm not saying that this isn't a veritable community, a valid community with the ability to hold people accountable. It's way more complicated on the internet. It's more nebulous.